Okay, kiddos, welcome back. Now we're going to be moving on to lesson 1.4, talking about perimeter and area on the coordinate plane. Okay, so let's get right into it. So, first off, perimeter. I'm going to use two different color highlighters on here, so you may want to as well. I'm going to do one for the perimeter. Okay, so now we remember that perimeter is the distance all the way around a shape. Okay, so all the way around. So in order to find the perimeter of any shape, then all we're going to do is to find the perimeter, it's going to be equal to adding all the sides. Okay, adding all the sides will get us to the perimeter. Okay, so that being said, what about the area? Okay, so we remember the area then is the amount on the inside. Okay, so we can kind of do just like that. All right, to give us the area on the inside. Now, with that one, we use a different type of formula. Okay, so perimeter, we said we're just going to add all the sides. On the area, it depends on the shape. So the area of a rectangle, okay, or a square is equal to length, okay, times width. Okay, so we remember the parentheses tell us that we multiply. So the area of a rectangle is length times width. Then the area of a triangle is equal to base times height divided by 2. Okay, so the area of a rectangle, we're going to do just length times width. The area of a triangle, we're going to do base times height divide by 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and, uh, oh, sorry, let's see here. Let's go ahead and highlight those just to remind ourselves, right? The blue is going to be the perimeter, so that's adding all the sides, and then the green is going to be the area. So the first one is going to be the triangle, second one is going to be the rectangle. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's get right into some problems. Okay, so first thing we said was uh, this one right here. It says um, plot and connect the points in the order listed below. When you are done, find the perimeter of the resulting figure. Okay, so this one is a perimeter problem. Okay, so perimeter, we can write that at the top. Okay, so on this problem, it says first, go ahead and plot and connect the points in the order listed. So we're going to go A first, then B, then C, then D. So let's go ahead and first plot A, right? So for A, we're going to be 1, comma 7. So we're going to go to the right 1, and then we're going to go up 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a dot right over there. The right 1 and up 7. Okay, next, B, 6, comma 7. So we're going to start there. We're going to go to the right 6, and we're going to go up 7, and we're going to put a dot there. Okay, and I'm going to label this one A, and I'm going to label this one B. Okay, I'm going to space it a little bit off of that so it's not right on top of it, but that way I can remember where each point is. All right, so we did A and B. Okay, so now let's do C. C is going to be negative 6 comma 4. So we're going to go to the left 6, and we are going to go, I'm sorry, positive 6 comma negative 4, right? We're going to go to the right 6, and we're going to go down to negative 4. Okay, we're going to put a dot there. Okay, and we said that one was C. All right, then moving right along, the last one is D. It says D is 1 comma negative 4. So we're going to go 1 to the right, and then we're going to go down 4, and we're going to put a dot there. Okay, so that is D. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, so then we are going to, so the first thing we do is plot that. The second thing is we have to push this button right over here to graph the figure. Okay, once it does that, it's going to graph it. So let's go ahead and connect those dots, right? It will graph it just like this. Okay, now we need to do our second step. So the first thing that we need to do is plot the points. Second is we need to graph to connect the dots, points. Okay, and then 3 is we need to calculate the width, and then we'll calculate the length. Okay, and then once we do that, then we'll just add them all up. Okay, so the perimeter we'll say we'll just add all the sides. Okay, so those are our steps. So let's go ahead and do it. So we already plotted the points, we graphed the points. Now we need to calculate the width. So let's take a look over here. Okay, so the width, of course, is from one end to the other. So let's just go ahead and count the dots. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to put a dot right in the middle so I'm counting the squares. A common mistake is to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But if we're going to do that, we start with 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So we know this width is 5. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's go over here and we said the width is 5, right? So we say width equals 5. Okay, now let's calculate the length. So we can do the similar thing right over here. So let's use those dots. We're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so the length is equal to 11. Okay, so now to calculate the perimeter, though, we have 4 sides, right? So if that's 5, we said this one was 11, right? That means this side over here is 11, and that means this side up here is 5, right? So we have our 4 sides that we need to add up. We're going to add up 11 plus 11 plus 5 plus 5. So let's do it. So we said the perimeter is equal to 11 plus 11 plus 5 plus 5, right? So those are our values that we can put into our calculator just like that. Okay, so if we put that into our Delta Math calculator, we're going to get the answer of 32. Let me clean that up. So 32. Okay, so that's our answer. Okay, 11 plus 11 plus 5 plus 5. Okay, so if it's a rectangle, we're just going to do it just like that. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's keep it moving. So now we are doing something different. Now we're talking about finding the area of a rectangle. So let's go ahead and write over here area so we recognize which problem or which type of problem. So the area, we said, of a rectangle is going to be length times width, right? Okay, so in other words, we have to calculate both the length and the width, right? So our first step is we're going to plot our points, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. First one is 1, 2, so that means 1 to the right, 2 up. Okay, our next one is 7, 6. Okay, so that means we're going to go 7 to the right and then 6 up. So we're going to go 7 to the right and then 6 up, and so that's going to give us a right over there. Okay, so that first one we're going to label as P. The second one we're going to label as Q. Right? Okay, next we're going to say after Q we're going to go to R. Okay, so R is, so we did P, Q, R is 5, 9. So we're going to go 5 to the right and we're going to go 9 up. So once we do that, we're going to put a dot right over there, right? We said we're going to label that one R. Okay, then our last one is S. S is negative 1, 5. So we're going to go to left 1 and we're going to go up 5. Right, left 1 and up 5. And we're going to label that one S. Okay, so that's our first step. The second step is we're going to graph to connect the dots, connect the points. Okay, but when we graph it, we're going to go in order. So we said P, Q, then R, then S, right? So P, then Q, then R, then S, then back. Okay, so now the area, though, is all the area on the inside. So what we have to do then is we need to, third step is to calculate the length. Okay, and we're going to use that with the, so we need to calculate the length of this right here, right? We're going to say PQ. Okay, so we need to find the length of P to Q, right? PQ. Well, PQ is the distance formula, right? So the distance from P to Q if we remember, is going to be equal to, right, the difference of a quantity squared plus the difference of a quantity squared. So this is where we're using our distance formula again. All right, so now let's talk about P and Q. So the most crucial thing is that we need to remember that X comes first and then Y comes second. So I know that was messing up a lot of students last time. So let's think about that. P, Q. So let's start with P. So P is going to be 1 for the X, right? And then we need the other X, right? So the other X for Q is a 7. Okay. Then similarly, we put the Y's over here. So since we started with the P, let's start with that Y, which is 2. Okay. Then Q, which is 6. Okay, now that's the hardest part, right? Remember, we're just going to type that into our calculator just like that. Okay, and if we do that, we're going to get the answer of approximately 3.6. Okay, so let's keep that as a round to the 10th. Okay, we want to round to the 10th. Okay, so I'm going to show you why we're going to do that on this problem. Okay, so it's very crucial that we do that. Okay, so a fourth thing is we need to calculate the width, right? Okay, and so the width is from here to here, right? That's going to be RQ, right? R to Q. So we're going to calculate the width, which is RQ, right? So if we're going to do that, so that we're going to say the distance of R to Q is equal to the square root of the difference of the x's plus the difference of the y's, right? So let's do that. RQ is going to be, let's look at our problem again. Okay, RQ, so 4 and 5 and 7, right? 5 and 7, right? Then the y values of R and Q. Since we started with the 5, we need to start with a 9. So 9 and 6, right? 9 and 6. Okay, so then if we just put those into our calculator, right? Just like we talked about, we're going to put that into our calculator just like that. If we do that, that's going to give us approximately 7.21. 7.2, right? Okay, so now that we have the length and we have the width, now let's calculate. All right, so we're very close. So number 5, we're going to do the area equals length, right, times width. Okay, so that means that's equal to 3.6 times 7.2. Okay, so then if we put that into our calculator, okay, if we put that in our calculator, that's going to give us the answer of 25.9. Okay, now here's the thing. On this problem, we need to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so the nearest whole number is going to be 26. Okay, so that's one thing that we need to keep in mind on this one, is that we need to round to the nearest whole number, and I want to go ahead and change that on the problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the problem question, and let's change that. So right up here, let's go ahead and keep in mind that we round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so if we don't do that, we're going to get the wrong answer. So it's very critical on this that we do that. Okay, so do not forget that. Okay, round to the nearest whole number on this one. Okay, so looking back, that's what we did on this first page, right? We said to find the perimeter, we're just going to add up all the sides. So on when it's going left or right, we can just count those, right? That's why we were able to just count those. On this one, we have to use the distance formula is because they are diagonals. Okay, anytime it's a diagonal, we can't just count the dots. We can only count the dot when it's like this. Okay, when it's horizontal or straight vertical. On this one, we have to use the distance formula because these are diagonals. A common mistake would be to try to count those, but that would be wrong. All right, let's move on to the next page. Go and do both of these practices in Delta Math first before we move on to the next page, so you got this. All right, kiddos, now that we got that, let's make this happen right over here. So this should go even smoother, hopefully. All right, so this one says these points form a triangle. Okay, we want to find the perimeter of the triangle. So once again, let's talk about how we need to find perimeter. Okay, so we know that we just have to add all the sides, right? So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to graph this. Okay, so let's do that. So it says S is negative 4 comma negative 2. Oh, negative 4 comma negative 2. Okay, so let's write that down. Negative 4, negative 2. So that's going to be to the left 4 and then down 2. Okay, and we're going to label that one the S. All right, so next we said is T. That's a negative 4 comma 5, right? So I'm going to go to the left 4, but we're going to go up to 5 right over there. Okay, we say we're going to label that one T. Okay, next is U. It's going to negative 9, negative 2. So you're going to go 9 to the left and then down 2. Okay, so that's going to be right over there. And we're going to label that one U. Okay, so we remember that we're going to go in order as far as graphing those. So let's go ahead and graph those in order. Okay, so after we push that graph button, it connects them. So we're going to say STU, right, and then connect it. All right, so next step is we need to calculate all sides. So the length of the first side. Okay, so whatever the first side is, let's say the first side is ST. Okay, so we'll call that ST. Okay, so to calculate ST, this one is vertical, right? So we know that all we have to do is just count the units, right? So we can do a couple different ways. We can start there and start at 0, or we can just draw the dots, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Or I could start here, 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So either way, I know this much right here is 7. Okay? So our first length of our first side is 7. ST equals 7. Okay, that's our first one. The next step is the length of the second side. Okay, the second side, let's call it US, right? US. Okay, so let's do a similar thing. On this one, since it's US and it's horizontal, we can just count those, right? So we can either go starting at 0, count those, or put the dot, right? So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because we say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this much is 5. Okay, so those are easy. Those two are easy to get because those are horizontal and diagonal, right? So we're going to say US, segment US is equal to 5. Okay, now here's the toughest part. We need to find our third set. All right, so the length of the third side is going to be, the length of that third side is going to be UT, right? UT. Okay, so let's do it. UT is going to be equal to, now this is a diagonal, right? So we have to use the distance formula. So we got to use our distance formula, right? So we're going to say the quantity of something squared plus the difference squared, right? So UT, so we're going to use U and T. We're going to remember that X comes first, then Y comes second, right? So X is going to be negative 9 and negative 4. So negative 9 and negative 4, right? Okay, then the Y values, U then T. So negative 2 and 5. Negative 2 and 5, right? And we're going to focus that we had a double negative there, right? Because we typed it incorrectly. So let's go ahead and type that into our calculator. Once we do that, we're going to get our length that's going to be, of that one's going to be approximately 8.6. Now this one's saying to the nearest tenth, so we're going to remember to round to the nearest tenth on that one. So now we're down to our last step, 5. Our last step is the perimeter, is add all the sides, right? So the perimeter is going to be, if we add the sides, right? That's going to be our first side of 7 plus our second side of 5 plus third side of 8.6, right? So we're going to say 7 plus 5 plus 8.6. That's going to be equal to 20.6. And so we rounded to the nearest tenth, and that is our correct answer. Okay, so that's what we want to do, is we want to round to the nearest tenth and then just add up all of our sides. All right, so we're almost done. Let's go to the last problem right over here. Hopefully this will be even smoother. Now this one we're trying to find the perimeter. I'm going to show you one that's a little bit more difficult. Okay, so that's why we're doing this one. So once again, this is the perimeter. Okay, so let's do our first step. We're going to graph. Okay, so the first one is, it's a triangle, so it's 3 sides, -8, comma, -3. Okay, so -8 and then -3. Okay, we're going to label that with a T. Okay, next we're going to say U is 1, comma, -3. So 1 to the right and then down 3. Okay, that's U. Okay, then our last one is V, -2, comma, 6. So we can go to left 2 and then we go up 6. Left 2 and up 6 gives us there. Okay, so we're going to say that is V. Now, we need to calculate the sides. Let's connect those. Now, if we notice, this one's the only one that's horizontal, so that one we can calculate right off. So our first side, which is TU, so TU is equal to, let's just count those squares, right? So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Or we would say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that length is 9 right over here. Okay, but now we see this is diagonal, so we have to use the distance formula for that. This is diagonal, right? So we have to use the distance formula for that. So let's go ahead and write our 9 down first. So that TU is equal to 9. We got that. So the third step, let's get our second side. Okay, so our second side, we're going to call that one, if that's V, well, if that's V, right, we're going to call that one, say, TV. Let's do this side right here, TV. Okay, so TV is, since it's diagonal, remember we have to use the distance formula, right? So if we do that, we're going to say T and V, right? So we remember that X comes first, then Y comes second. So T and V, we're going to say -8 and -2, right? -8 and -2. Remember that I'm going to leave that minus there, so I have a double negative there. So since we said TV, let's do the Y's now. So -3 and 6. So -3 and 6. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and type that into our calculator, right? That's the toughest part, is just getting that information down. So once we type that into the calculator, that's going to tell us that that one is approximately, what do we get with that? That's approximately 10.817. Now let's use 3 digits until the end. Okay, so we don't want to have what's called a rounding error. So let's keep that first. TV is approximately that. Okay, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Next, let's find the third side. Okay, so the third side, once again, is going to be UV, right? UV is our third side. So let's calculate to find UV, right? Because UV is a diagonal, we have to use the distance formula, right? So we're going to use that squared plus different squared. So U and V, remember X comes first, so 1 and -2. 1 minus -2, right? Then the Y values. So we said UV, so -3 and 6. So -3 and 6. Okay, so just make sure that we type it in just like that, right? Including that double negative. If we did that, that's going to be approximately, that's going to be our approximate value of 9.48. Okay, so now that we have our 3 sides, right? We got our 3 sides. Let's do our last step, right? Step number 5, to find our perimeter, we're going to add up all the sides, right? So the first side is, so these are our sides, right? 9, 10.817, and 9.48. So let's put that in there. 9 plus 10. 9.817 plus 9.48. Okay, if we put that into our calculator once again, okay, we're using our calculator as a tool, we're going to get approximately 29.304, right? So then that's going to be approximately 29.3. Okay, so that's our answer, 29.3. Let's clean that up. All right, so here's the key. We just have to make sure that we recognize that we need to use the distance formula when we're dealing with a diagonal. If it's just horizontal or vertical, we can just count it like that. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. Let's make it happen.